What if I told you that your chair is slowly stealing years of your life? Sounds exaggerated. In the West, thousands of older adults lose their independence every year because of a sedentary lifestyle and end up trapped in beds or nursing homes. But in Japan, the reality is different. I met a 92-year-old woman who still climbs stairs every day to tend her own garden. Research shows that Japanese seniors experience up to 40% fewer falls and hospitalizations in old age. And the key lies in something simple. I am Dr. Ana Esperanza, a physician specializing in longevity, and I've spent years investigating this difference. Today, I'm going to reveal the 6 movements they practice daily. Movements so simple you can start doing them right now. And that may be the barrier between living independently or needing help even to go to the bathroom. Comment now. I choose to live with independence to show your commitment to your health and stay until the end, because movement number 3 is so surprising, it can restore the flexibility of your spine and hips, even if you thought you had lost it forever. When I returned from Japan, I brought back more than just scientific notes. I carried with me images burned into my memory, almost disturbing for anyone used to the sight of hospitals and wheelchairs. Picture walking into a small rural village and seeing an 87-year-old man carrying buckets of water balanced on a bamboo pole across his shoulders, walking steadily without stumbling, or a woman nearly a century old, kneeling in the soil, planting tomatoes, and standing up again without support, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. At first I thought it was luck, perhaps genetics, but the more I investigated, the more I noticed a pattern, almost invisible to eyes accustomed to Western passivity. The first movement may seem trivial, but it's the foundation of everything, sitting down and standing up from the floor several times a day. For us in the West, this sounds strange, even uncomfortable, but think about it. Every time you sit on the floor and then rise again, you mobilize your hips, knees, ankles, your core muscles, and even your balance. It is a natural full-body exercise, repeated so often throughout the day that it becomes a kind of silent training. In Japan, this habit starts early because many homes still use tatami mats and low tables. This means people spend their entire lives getting up and down from the floor, unknowingly reinforcing their bodies against the fragility of old age. In the West, the opposite happens. Children grow up surrounded by chairs, couches, and tall beds. The body forgets how to bend, and the muscles that should sustain us into old age slowly wither. By the time old age arrives, standing up from the floor has become nearly impossible. And here is the grim truth. The inability to get up from the floor unassisted is one of the strongest predictors of premature death in seniors. Studies show that those who lose this ability are at much higher risk of falls, fractures, and dependency. It's as if every time you avoid crouching down or standing up, you're silently signing a contract with fragility. I remember a woman I met in Okinawa. At 91, she could still squat down to cook on a low stove and then rise again, holding a pot in her hands. I asked her how she maintained such vitality, and she answered simply, "I never stopped using my legs." That phrase struck me because it reveals something cruel. In the West, we stop using our legs long before they fail us. We hand our independence over to chairs. The second movement, equally simple, is long, steady walking. In Japan, it is not unusual for older adults to walk several kilometers a day, not as formal exercise, but as part of their daily lives. They walk to the market, visit neighbors, climb slopes, and cross fields. These daily walks keep the cardiovascular system alive, preserve bone density, and stimulate the mind. Now compare that to Western reality. Cars for every short trip, hours spent in front of the television, step counters and apps because walking has become artificial, something extra instead of part of life. The human body was made to walk, and each step is a reminder that we are still alive. But when walking is replaced by sitting, aging accelerates like a silent rust. The image that stayed with me most vividly was of a 94-year-old man I met in a fishing village. Every day he walked down to the harbor, a steep path that would make many young people complain of exhaustion. He went down, chatted, laughed, carried small nets, and then returned, calmly climbing the stone steps with strong legs. When I asked him how he managed with such ease, he simply laughed and said, "Because I never stopped." That phrase echoed in my mind for months. In the West, retirement is often a sentence of bodily stillness. In Japan, it is the opposite. Movement never stops, because to stop is to let life quietly extinguish. These first two movements, sitting and standing from the floor and walking long distances, are like invisible pillars. They don't look impressive. They don't have the glamour of a gym or modern machines, but they function as shields against decay. Science confirms this. Hip flexibility and the ability to walk pain-free are directly associated with functional independence and life expectancy. The earlier these abilities are lost, the faster one is consumed by the cycle of hospitalizations, falls, and dependency. But there is a disturbing detail no one talks about openly. While Japanese seniors practice these movements every day without even thinking of them as exercise, we in the West need reminders, videos, apps, even doctors begging us to move, and still we resist. Why? Perhaps because Western culture has turned comfort into a prison. Plush sofas, ergonomic chairs, elevators at every corner. The body adapts to ease, and when the time comes to demand strength, it finds nothing but weakness. I recall visiting a rehabilitation center in the United States, where dozens of seniors sat in wheelchairs, many unable to stand up without assistance. A physical therapist confided to me in a low voice, "They ended up here because they stopped moving long before they got sick." That sentence hit me like a punch. It wasn't illness that had stolen those patients' lives. It was the absence of movement cultivated over decades of comfort. Now you may be wondering, if these two movements are so powerful, why does almost no one talk about them? The answer is dark, because there is no profit in teaching someone to get up from the floor or to walk more. No pill, supplement, or surgery can replace what the body loses when it becomes complacent. The silence around this truth is not an accident. It is convenience. And yet these two movements are only the beginning. They prepare the body for something deeper, almost unsettling, that few dare to practice after 60. Movements that seem strange, almost forbidden in our culture, but that may hold the key not only to vitality, but to independence itself in old age. But the next ones are even more disturbing. The first two movements are only the surface of something far deeper. If sitting and rising from the floor keeps the body awake, and walking strengthens life step by step, the next habits of the Japanese reveal a hidden code against premature aging, a code that, in the West, has been erased by comfort and profit. The third movement may seem the strangest to our eyes, squatting to perform daily tasks. Imagine picking up an object from the ground, but not by bending at the waist. Instead, by bending your knees, lowering your hips, and engaging muscles we've almost forgotten exist. In Japan, this is natural. They squat to light a low stove, to reach into drawers near the floor, to prepare food, or to work in their gardens. This simple gesture, repeated dozens of times each day, keeps hips and spine in constant motion, reinforcing deep muscles that prevent pain and keep posture strong. In the West, this movement has been replaced by bending forward. Each time we reach for something, we fold our lower back like a rope ready to snap. It is no wonder that back pain is one of the leading causes of disability in the Western world. In Japan, 80-year-olds can still squat and rise as if they were children learning to walk. This doesn't happen by chance, but because the body has been trained silently for decades. The fourth movement is even more surprising: the habit of balancing on uneven surfaces. In Japanese villages, cobbled streets, terraced gardens, narrow staircases, and sloping ground are part of daily life. The body is constantly forced to adapt, activating stabilizing muscles and training balance every step of the way. It is a kind of invisible gym where each footfall is a challenge. In the West, by contrast, we have flattened everything. Streets are smooth, sidewalks straight, hallways level. We have built environments so artificial that we've erased the small tests of balance. The result: when an elderly person steps on a folded rug or slips on an uneven sidewalk, the body doesn't know how to react. The fall is inevitable. The fracture, too. And often, life never returns to what it was. I recall a chilling statistic I heard at a medical congress. More than 30% of Western seniors who suffer a hip fracture die within a year of the accident. It's not the fracture itself that kills, but the loss of independence it triggers. In Japan, the numbers are drastically lower, and the difference is not genetic. It lies in the daily movements that train the body to face the unpredictable. But perhaps the most unsettling truth I discovered came during a trip to a remote Japanese village. This is my side quest, and I must tell it, because it changed completely how I view aging. I arrived in this village almost by accident, following rumors of a group of elders who defied every statistic. Not only did they live beyond 90, but they remained active, working in the fields, carrying baskets of rice, planting, laughing, as if time had no power over them. I expected to find some secret ritual, perhaps an exotic diet or rare medicine, but the truth I saw with my own eyes was far simpler and far more shocking. I met Mr. Hideo, 95 years old, crouched in a rice field, planting seedlings. He squatted firmly, pushed his hands into the soil, stood up without help, walked a few steps, and repeated. I calculated quickly. That man had likely repeated that movement hundreds of thousands of times in his life. I asked him what his secret was, expecting to hear of herbs, teas, or ancestral traditions. He looked at me, smiled serenely, and answered, "There is no secret. I just never stopped moving." I also spoke with Mrs. Yumi, 90 years old, who climbed stone steps to care for flowers in her hilltop garden. She told me that in the 1970s, foreign researchers had visited the region and recorded something curious. Almost no elderly residents suffered from chronic back pain or severe hip degeneration. But the study never made headlines. It was shelved, forgotten, perhaps because it offered no profitable solution. What the scientists had discovered was too simple. Those elders weren't protected by medicine, but by a lifetime of daily movements. That story haunted me, because in the West, we always seek answers in bottles and pills. Meanwhile, the answer was under our feet, in our legs, our hips, in how we use, or fail to use, our bodies. And here lies the hidden risk. Every comfortable chair, every avoided staircase, every car trip for a short distance is a silent blow against our future independence. We don't notice it, but the body is racking up small debts of movement. And one day, the bill comes due in the form of falls, dependency, hospitalizations. But the Japanese, without realizing it, pay those debts every day. And that is what keeps their legs strong, their backs upright, their hands firm even into their 90s. Meanwhile, the West remains trapped in a cycle of programmed fragility. And perhaps you are wondering, if this is true, why don't we learn from them? The answer is simple and disturbing, because there is more profit in selling painkillers than in teaching someone to squat properly, more money in surgeries and prosthetics than in encouraging daily walks. The truth is that there is a silent interest in keeping the Western body weak because a weak body consumes. And even faced with this dark reality, one question lingers. What are the final movements, the ones that truly separate independent Japanese elders from Westerners imprisoned in hospital beds? And still, the most dangerous and powerful one is yet to come. The first four movements already reveal an unsettling truth. The human body does not age by chance. It is slowly destroyed by the absence of challenge. But the Japanese, by preserving simple practices in their daily lives, extend what we call functional youth. And yet, the final two movements are the most impressive and the most ignored in the West. The fifth movement is almost invisible, but it is powerful, stretching and twisting the torso regularly. It may sound trivial, but in Japanese villages it's common to see older adults making small twists while cooking, hanging laundry, or cleaning their homes. These aren't formal stretches done in a gym. They are ordinary gestures that keep the spine alive, elastic, resistant to time. Each gentle twist, each slow extension is a reminder that the spine was not made for immobility. In the West, we spend hours hunched over screens, stiffening vertebrae, shortening muscles, crippling our ability to move fluidly. Rigidity sets in quietly until one day lifting our arms to reach a high shelf or turning to look behind us becomes painful. This stiffness is the prelude to dependency. In Japan, these daily micro stretches act like an antidote to degeneration. But the movement that truly separates those who age with independence from those who succumb to fragility is the sixth, a simple exercise, but almost forbidden in the West, lying down on the floor and standing up without using the hands. It may sound harsh to suggest this for someone over 60, but it is precisely this act that reveals the true vitality of the body. When you lie on the floor, gravity presses on your bones, muscles, and joints, and as you rise, the body must coordinate strength, balance, flexibility, and motor awareness all in one sequence. In Japan, this movement is still part of life. Seniors sleep on futons directly on tatami mats, which forces them to rise from the floor every morning. Each awakening becomes, unknowingly, a ritual that preserves independence. In the West, by contrast, beds are high, armchairs are soft, and convenience is so abundant that this movement has disappeared from daily life. The result is brutal. When we finally need to get up from the floor after a fall, we discover we can't. And that is often the moment when independence never returns. I once witnessed a simple test in a research center called the floor test. Seniors were asked to lie down and then stand up without help. The results were terrifying. Those who failed had mortality rates up to 5 times higher in the following years, not because the movement was magical, but because it revealed a body already condemned by inactivity. Think about this. The ability to get up from the floor may be the line that separates someone who can still live alone from someone who needs help, even to use the bathroom. This gesture, simple yet brutal, reflects a lifetime of choices. In Japan, elders practice it daily without labeling it as exercise. In the West, it is almost non-existent, and that is why so many are dragged prematurely into nursing homes. What makes this sixth movement even more disturbing is the effect it has on the mind, because standing up from the floor doesn't just test the body, it tests confidence, the sense of being capable. In Japan, 80 or 90-year-olds rise unassisted and smile. In the West, many stare at the floor as if it were an invincible enemy. And here is the dark detail few dare to speak aloud. Decline does not begin in the body. It begins in the mind. When we accept fragility as our inevitable fate, the body obeys thought. And when you convince yourself you can no longer do something, your body follows by weakening for real. Now you may be asking, if these 6 movements are so simple, why aren't they promoted in gyms, in public health programs, in doctors' recommendations? The answer, once again, is disturbing. Because they don't generate profit. No memberships, no machines, no pills, no surgeries, only the body itself, defying gravity and time. It's a truth too inconvenient for a system that thrives on selling complex solutions to problems that could be prevented with simplicity. The Japanese, without realizing it, have built an invisible shield against crippling old age. And we in the West have traded that shield for comfortable chairs, accessible cars, and ever more expensive medications. Every choice of comfort is an abdication of future independence. And this leads to perhaps the most important question of all. How far can this process still be reversed? Can someone already feeling knee pain, spinal stiffness, or imbalance recover what they have lost? Or is there a secret limit, a point of no return, where the body simply stops responding? This is the question almost no one dares to confront. Doctors avoid it. Researchers drown it in charts and statistics. But the truth is hidden in something I saw with my own eyes in Japan. And it may be the darkest, most revealing key of all. There is a secret limit that can change everything. There is a secret limit that can change everything. I saw it with my own eyes, and at first, it left me in shock. In a small clinic in Tokyo, I followed a discreet study conducted on more than 100 seniors over the age of 80. Each was asked to perform the 6 movements I've just revealed. Some did them with ease, others with effort, but they managed. And then there were those who simply couldn't. When researchers compared the data years later, the results were almost cruel. Those who failed to perform at least 3 of the movements had a drastically shorter life expectancy. Not only did they live fewer years, but they lost their independence much earlier. What unsettled me wasn't just the statistic, but the logic hidden behind it. The human body functions like a movement bank account. In youth, we make deposits without noticing: strength, flexibility, balance. But from our 40s onward, we begin withdrawing more than we deposit. By the time we reach our 60s or 70s, without investing in these simple movements, the account is bankrupt. That is the secret limit, a point where the body no longer responds because the debt is too great. And here is the most disturbing part. This limit is not written in your genes. It is shaped every day by the choices you make. Each time you sit for hours, each time you avoid crouching, each time you drive a car for a short distance, you push your body closer to that point of no return. But every small act of movement, every walk, every time you sit on the floor and rise again, you pay back part of the debt and delay the inevitable. When I understood this, I realized longevity is not a Japanese miracle. It is a decision repeated daily in the form of movement. The 92-year-old woman climbing stairs to water her garden didn't get there by luck. The 94-year-old man walking down to the harbor wasn't chosen by genetics. They simply never stopped moving, and that never stopping is the secret that separates them from millions of Westerners confined to hospital beds. By now, you may feel a weight in your chest, a pressing urgency, and you should, because this revelation is not just about statistics. It is about you, your future, and how you want to live the years ahead. Picture yourself 10 or 20 years from now. Do you want to be able to get up from the floor on your own, walk to the store, care for your own home? Or do you want to depend on someone even to go to the bathroom? That is the choice before you. And remember, the body does not wait. It responds to what you do today. These 6 movements are not magic, but they are the barrier between living with autonomy or dying in a nursing home. You've heard the stories. You've seen the truths. Now it's time to decide. Comment now. I choose to live with independence, to reaffirm this commitment to yourself. That phrase is not just a comment. It is a public declaration that you refuse to be a victim of sedentarism. Subscribe to this channel and activate notifications, because here you will discover more truths no one dares to tell about aging and health. And never forget, what seems small today, standing up from the floor, walking more, squatting, stretching, lying down and rising, may be exactly what separates a life of independence from a life of confinement. Time is ticking, and your decision begins now.